The 2021 season in Acadia has set new records and is bringing in larger crowds than ever before. Here are 5 must-see places in Acadia National Park and how to deal with the crowd so that you can spend your time in the park and not sitting and waiting in your car. This is by no means a comprehensive list of places in Acadia, but this is just my personal take on places that I think shouldn't be missed if you're visiting Acadia National Park. With that, let's dive into our first entry. Number 5, Cadillac Mountain. This mountain is the highest point along the eastern coastline of the United States. During the late fall and into the early spring, it is the first point in the United States to see the sunrise. As of now, during the 2021 season, you do have to make a reservation to go up Cadillac Mountain, and I'm not entirely sure how long this is going to go on for. One of the reasons this mountain is so popular is because of the stunning panoramic views that you can see of the whole entire coastline and bay area around, and it's really, really magnificent, as you can tell by the footage I got when I visited.
Look at this view. It's stunning view. This is what we came here for. Stop number 1 on our trip.
So fog is something that you deal with along the coastline of Maine, so sometimes this is what happens. One of the reasons Cadillac Mountain is so popular is because of how easy it is to access this mountain view. There's a road that takes you directly to the top of the mountain with overlooks along the way as well to offer just stunning views all over. So it's really, really easy to access and is family friendly. There are trails at the top of the mountain that you can go and explore a little bit more, but if you're just there to see the views, then you can basically just drive your car straight to the top, see all of it, and drive back down. Next, at number 4 is the only lighthouse we have on this list, the Bass Harbor Light Station. Of the 80 or so lighthouses in Maine, this is one of 3 that is managed by the National Park Service in Acadia. It offers stunning panoramic views of the cliffside with the lighthouse on the side, and you can hike down the rocky shoreline to see the lighthouse and capture the stunning landscape. This view is extremely popular at sunset, with crowds just flocking the area to capture the sun setting behind the lighthouse. The parking lot does not scale well for the amount of people that want to see this place. There's no roadside parking, so you have to get into the parking lot in order to park for this lighthouse. And especially during sunset, when people are sitting around with cameras set up to capture the sunset and everything, there's not going to be a lot of people leaving. So if you want to get here, you want to go early, or otherwise you risk just sitting in your car in a long line of people for potentially hours. Sunrise is also a very popular time to visit this lighthouse, so that's something to keep in mind as well if you don't want to deal with the massive crowds at sunset. However, sunrise is also still very popular, so you're probably still going to see a lot of people. The best time to visit if you want to just avoid the crowds and see the lighthouse itself is to visit right after sunrise. So moving on to number 3 on our list, we have the Schooner Head Overlook. This overlook is on the quieter side of things compared to some of the other places that we're talking about, so if you want to just enjoy the scenery and get a breath of fresh air, this might be the place for you. So once you get to the parking lot, it's about a quarter-mile hike down to the cliffs itself, and it's just a small switchback road that really isn't hard to hike, so it's fairly family friendly. The 180-degree panoramic views of the ocean when you get down there are stunning, and it's breathtaking to be able to see all the waves crashing against the cliffs. And well, there might be a sea cave here too, but you didn't hear that from me. A word of advice for anyone that's adventuring around the cliffs near the water, not just at this overlook, but all of Acadia, it's very, very slippery when the rocks are wet, and you need proper shoes to be able to go, and if you're going to stand near the water or anything like that, make sure you are well prepared, because again, it's very, very slippery. And at this location more so than most of the other places, because of just how the waves come in and how high tide affects this area, it's extremely, extremely wet, and the rocks are very, very slippery, and they're covered in algae, moss, and other things, which kind of disguise just how slippery it is. But trust me, it's very, very slippery, and a lot of people, especially at this overlook, have gotten injured and have been taken to the hospital for various injuries and slipping and falling and getting cuts and things. So just, if you're gonna go and explore, be very, very careful, be very well prepared, and make sure you have shoes that have good traction. But at this overlook, if you don't go too close to the water's edge or anything, then you should be fine. It should be family friendly for everyone else. Just don't hike too close to the edge of the water if you're not prepared for it. So moving on to number 2, this one kind of might be cheating for including all of these places into one location, but oh well. Ocean Path is a trail that goes along the coastline of Acadia and goes to some of the most stunning attractions in the whole park. But the first thing to note if you're coming to this area is it is crowded. And I mean like parking lots full, people parked along the sides of the roads for miles. It's packed. So the largest of the parking lots and the start of the trail is at Sand Beach. This little beach is tucked away between two rocky shorelines on each side, giving it a really magnificent view of the ocean. This is a great family-friendly place to just go and relax and enjoy the scenery and the beach, but just keep in mind that the water is fairly cold and the sand is not like tropical island sand or anything like that. So this isn't a majestic beach and it's not going to replace Miami or anything by any means, but it's still a quaint, nice little place to go, just enjoy yourself, as well as get parking, because this again is the biggest parking lot of the Ocean Path. Once you continue along Ocean Path, whether you are hiking the trail or you are driving, you'll be greeted next by Thunder Hole. And this is one of the most popular spots in the whole park, and you can tell because the parking lot is always packed and there's just lines and lines of cars down the road for miles. So this is crowded. This little inlet is where water comes crashing into a small cave, which forces the air and water upward, resulting in water erupting with a large, thunderous clap. Hence the name Thunder Hole. This only happens when the waves and winds are active enough, and usually a little bit before high tide. I've read that the best time to go is about 2 hours before high tide. However, when I was out there, we were out there for probably about an hour and a half, and I'll be honest, we didn't hear any thunder clapping or anything like that. We did see some waves come crashing in, but nothing epic or anything like that. So this doesn't happen all the time, so just be aware of that.
So I have this random guy that's in everybody's shot.
Take it as you will, however, the views are still really scenic, and there's a lot of really nice cliffs here that you can get a lot of really cool views of the rocky coastline to be able to take pictures of. So I think it's still worth it to go just to be able to take the pictures of the surrounding area. But well, keep that in mind that you might not hear the thunder clapping all the time. So lastly, at the end of this 1.5 mile hike, or if you end up driving down the path again, if you can find parking, then you'll end up at Otter Point. This spot offers great 180-degree views of the cliffs and surrounding coastline, and it's probably the least crowded spot of all of the places I just mentioned. So this makes it a lot easier to explore the area and kind of enjoy the scenic views without having to deal with all the people. This is also a great spot to go and view sunrise or sunset without having to deal with the large crowds from other locations. So the other thing to know is if you're doing the hike down the trail, the 1.5 miles to get here, you have to hike the 1.5 miles back, and it goes along the same route. If you are driving, then it's a one-way road from Sand Beach to Otter Point, so you won't be able to go back the same way you came. You would have to loop all the way around if you wanted to go, say, from Otter Point to Thunder Hole. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're going down Ocean Path. Before we go into number one, let's take a quick break to talk about tips on food in Acadia. While there are plenty of amazing places to eat on the island, here are some of my favorite. So one of the most famous places to eat in Acadia National Park is at the Jordan Pond House, where they serve their famous popovers, which are hollow breads that are served with jam and butter. There are also trails nearby that go around the nearby pond, and you might want to take advantage of those trails if you're waiting to eat lunch here because it's crowded. The restaurant only opens between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. and if you're gonna go here, then you're gonna want to go early.
This is David's waiting face, waiting in line for food. Waiting with a lot of people waiting in line here for the Jordan Pond House.
I was there on a Tuesday a bit after 12 noon, and our wait was already 2 hours long to get into the restaurant. Something else to note is if you are afraid of bees, do not eat outside. They do have a lot of bees just floating around the flowers in the area, and if you're gonna eat outside, they will be buzzing around you. So that's just something to keep in mind. And there are plenty of signs in the area to let you know that there are bees out there. So if you're afraid of bees, don't eat outside. Nearby Acadia, there's lots of great places to eat, especially in Bar Harbor itself. However, one of my favorite places to eat is just a smidge outside of Bar Harbor, and it's called The Chart Room. The food is top-notch, and you can fulfill your seafood craving eating lobster, swordfish, and a whole lot more. They also have some of the best blueberry pie in town.
Get some blueberries. That's really good. That's a really good pie.
So lastly, if you're heading to Acadia from the direction of Portland, a place to stop by along the highway to get amazing food is the Red Barn. The food was amazing, the staff are extremely friendly, and it just was a really, really fun experience. The seating areas that they have outside are these large tents set up with air conditioning and dehumidifiers and everything. It's very cozy, it's great to hang around with friends, but it also feels kind of like you have your own booth or area because you're in your own little tent thing, but they're all really, really well maintained and very, very clean. And it's just, it's a fun place to go. So definitely check that out. All right, so we are on to number 1 and my favorite place in Acadia National Park. This spot is Schoodic Point. This spot is not on Mountain Desert Island, which is the island that the rest of Acadia is on. This is actually on the mainland itself, and it's about a little over an hour away from that island. This overlook has huge granite cliffs with just waves crashing into the rocks, which look mesmerizing, and it's just really fun to just go and sit and just enjoy the view. Honestly, I probably could have spent a whole day here, and I know a lot of people like to spend a lot of time just going out here and just pulling up lawn chairs or blankets or whatever and just sitting along the rocks and watching the waves come crashing in. The best time to go and see the waves here is at high tide, so that's something to keep in mind, that if you go during low tide, then it won't quite be the same. However, it's still going to be fun to walk around the rocks and explore the area when the waves are lower. But if you want to see all the crashing waves, then high tide.
It's absolutely breathtaking. Just, oh, look at that. Woo!
Lastly, here are some general tips to know when you're visiting Acadia National Park. In the summer, there are a lot of mosquitoes and biting bugs, so that's something to keep in mind, to dress accordingly and bring repellent or whatever you need to basically just keep yourself safe. The weather in Acadia can also change very drastically with winds and fog and rain coming in from the ocean, so just be prepared to check the weather all the time and be prepared for pretty much any type of weather, because when the first day we got there, it was in the 60s and rainy.
It's windy, it's cold. Look at this, look at this, look at this view.
And we were only there for 3 days, but the last day we left, it was like in the 90s, blazing hot, and I personally was not prepared for that because I was planning that it would be colder, but it wasn't. Fog is not uncommon here, so that's something to keep in mind when you're at the various overlooks, that it might be foggy and maybe limiting your view. Also, if you're driving, just keep in mind that it can be very foggy, so just be safe while you're driving. Be sure to check the tidal charts every day, because usually high tide is the best time to see the waves crashing into the coastline and things like that. So if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for, then make sure you go at high tide and not low tide. Lastly, dealing with the crowds at Acadia, I would highly suggest going as early as possible and maximizing by going to the most popular places earlier on in the day before all the crowds start getting in there mid to late, afternoon. So know what places you want to prioritize, know which ones are extremely popular, and plan accordingly. There's just so much to do in Acadia and so much more beyond this list, but I hope that this helps and kind of gives you a start in planning your Acadia trip. If you feel this video is helpful, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to my channel to see more videos and guides like this. If you have any questions or comments or places that you think are must-see spots in Acadia National Park, I would love to hear them. So feel free to leave those in the comments section down below, and I will see you guys in the next one.